Hey everybody, it's Master Galengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of The Lord of the Rings of Power, The Great Wave. And I overall enjoyed this episode. Granted, my main kind of pet peeve with the episode was with Theo's involvement. I mean, there's interesting potential there, and the thing is, I really don't have a problem with the actor. It's just mainly like the plot needs him to be stupid for certain things to kind of work out. And his stuff kind of gets better when he's trying to like get away from the orcs. When he kind of goes back to his village and then links back up with Arondir, and we have a kind of cool action scene there. Cinematic, pretty good cinematic action scene going on there. So, the main three stories that we follow this week are with Galadriel and Numenor, Elrond and Durin with the dwarfs, and then Arondir kind of linking up with Theo and his mother and the people at the Watchtower. Let us see. Let's actually hit Elrond's first. He's getting into trying to kind of like check on Durin to kind of see what's going on. His wife kind of tells Elrond that he's at a certain place and that it's all right, while his kids are doing this kind of nursery kind of rhyme game. But Elrond's able to kind of see through it, and that Dissa is lying to him, and he goes to kind of check it out himself, utilizing the nursery rhyme to pretty much get into this kind of other kind of place. Durin's kind of calling him out. He's like, "You want this shit?" He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about, my dude?" And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna tell you, but you got to swear on the stone." He's like, "Sure, yeah." He's like, "Granted, I came here not to steal shit from you or to fuck you over, man. I recognize that I fucked up leaving you alone for 20 years. And I do like that Elrond acknowledges that. It's like, yes, elves are long-lived, and dwarves can sometimes live longer as well, but 20 years is still a great-ass time." And he then shows what was pretty much in that box, I think, and we get introduced to Mithril. And it's kind of cool to kind of see it. He's like talking about how important it is before pretty much a cave-in kind of starts going on, and it's not a very stable kind of vein for it. Even his father pretty much told him to watch out for what's kind of going on with trying to get at the Mithril. However, those workers are then trapped in there. We see Disa then starting to do this kind of singing thing to get the mountain to release the people if they could. And it's really kind of cool because you do see the mountain reacting to the singing as well. It definitely makes sense because dwarves are born of the mountains. They're intimately connected with it. And it's cool to kind of see this kind of stuff going on. And Durin's even like, "Dude, if you hadn't been there, I would have been in there." Like, well, Disa brings that up to Elrond. I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry that we lied to you, but if you hadn't gone there and tried to talk to my husband, he probably would have been in there too." And then Durin comes in and says that all the people got out, and they're all alive. It's like, all right. And, of course, he's going to be like, "All right, we're kind of all right. We can do this." He invites him to Lindon. Durin, of course, talks with his father and says that he's sorry for his stubbornness and everything. And we get a good moment between father and son, as normally his father's like, normally it takes like the crown and hopefully getting the wisdom of the older generations that have been king into the next king. But he's like, "You're lucky that I'm here and we're here and we're having a conversation." He's like, "Son, there's nothing to forget." And then, of course, he asks for his father's input on if he should go to Lindon. He's like, "We don't know what's going on, and we don't know if they're trying to screw us over or whatnot. So go there, kind of recon, see what's kind of going on." So I get the kind of mistrust between the races, and it's kind of cool that we are kind of exploring that, because granted, it's never been a big kind of thing in the forefront, but just exploring why certain monarchs or certain kind of time periods would have certain kind of weirdness and unrest. They're also doing that with Numenor, and they're actually explaining that pretty well in this episode, even though it's kind of like, okay, until they get the kind of clear sun to be like, "Oh god, we're getting kind of fucked up here." So that kind of sets off that one. I'll save the Galadriel and Isildur kind of stuff for the end. let's go to Arondir. He sees the Adar character, which I'm still not certain if it's Sauron or not. It could just be an elder elf that's corrupted, because orcs are kind of like similar to elves but are corrupted more and turn towards evil. And we see him pretty much taking this orc and giving it peace, which I do like seeing that different kind of aspect. That doesn't mean that I like forgive them or anything for like, hey, they're killing people and forcing them to dig tunnels and shit like that and just do all this kind of nasty shit. It doesn't completely wash away the bad that they've done, but it's interesting to get an inside perspective and to understand them a little bit more as he kind of kills them. And then Arondir is trying to figure out what the fuck and who the fuck this person is, but he's like, alright, I'm going to send you back to the watchtower with a message. And then we see him pretty much go off. He then disappears for a good chunk of the episode, and then we see that Theo decides to like pretty much get his other friend together to go back into the town to get food, because their foraging is not working out. They're not getting as much food as they need, so they go back into town during daylight to pretty much get shit. Theo pretty much gets set upon by an orc while his friend pretty much leaves him because cloud cover's coming out, so that way the orcs can come around and like fuck him up. Theo, of course, starts kind of using the blade, and I think this is more connected with Sauron than kind of like a Lich King or whatnot. It'll be interesting to see how this kind of plays out. I'm more interested in the blade and everything, because the orcs are like, he found the sword hilt, we need to get his ass, which then starts him hiding in a well for a little bit, and then trying to escape at night, which is kind of weird. I mean, granted, if I was him, I would have waited until like morning or whatnot, but maybe he waited close enough to morning, because morning does pop up and save his ass. And the thing is, his friend came back and was like, hey, look at this. It's like, oh, I guess we should have done what the kid said. Saved us all, pretty much. But then his mom goes back out to try and save his ass. But he's sneaking around. He almost gets set upon by an orc, but Arondir pops up, saves his ass. He is kind of wounded, and they start running through the woods as the orcs are going for this sword. So I do kind of want a little bit more information on that, so we'll see kind of how that goes, as he's trying to help him out and doing some insane bow shots and everything against this kind of superior force, because it's a pretty big raiding party that comes after him. And then, of course, his mom pops up, and they kind of get into a clearing when the sun kind of comes up. They get back to the watchtower, and Arondir delivers the message that they fucking fuck off. They won't get killed, and just leave it to the orcs and Adar. It's like, alright, that's actually a better deal than most would get in that scenario. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Theo, of course, then starts talking to the dude who had the blade under there. It's like, oh yeah, look. And he's got like similar marks on his arm of like, because you take the hilt and you kind of like jam it into yourself to give it blood for it to be like, ugh, and like lightsaber out, if you will. And he's like, yeah, we're waiting for Sauron to come back, because that's who we were beholden to in the past days. It's like, are you wanting to do that, man? You seem kind of more crazy and just like drinky more than anything. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd trust something that like needs to drink my blood. It would depend. Like, it doesn't mean it's completely evil, but if it gets to a thing of like, I'm gonna suck your ass dry, bitch, that's not gonna help you in most scenarios, and instead you're gonna have to fight the fucking thing from eating you. Kind of reminds me of something from the Stormlight Archives, where this sword's like, I'm gonna kill shit that's evil, but it's like eating every fucking thing around. It's like, alright, watch out for that shit. So, that's kind of one of the mysteries that I'm interested to seeing. Alright, now the Numenor stuff. Let's see here. Let's actually hit the Isildur and his sister kind of stuff first, because it does link up with Galadriel, but it's small enough its own that it's like this weird kind of little subplot. Trust me, I understand that Isildur is a big kind of part, and it's definitely interesting to see how that kind of shit starts shaking out. We see that he's hearing stuff about the real Numenor in the West. I don't know if this is trying to come off as some kind of foretelling of him listening to things and him going for the ring and being tempted by it, or what, but he kind of fucks up and somehow also gets his two other friends kicked out of like the Sea Guard cadets shit, which made no sense to me whatsoever, except to just make his friends pissed off at him, and then they all three kind of join up in a war effort thing that happens later on when it connects back in with Galadriel's stuff, as well as seeing his sister be pretty much described in detail with all this stuff, and Kembin? Fazaron's the counselor's son. They have something kind of going on, and not completely going on, but you could see he's interested in her. You don't really get the same kind of feeling from her, just somebody to talk to, pretty much, as she's scrubbing floors, taking maps and everything for her scholarly duties. That's about it with that. It then, of course, links up with other kind of stuff. We see that the son also sees Fazaron. Fazaron? Nope. Rappa. Let me see here. Pharazôn. You see him kind of going around, being into the people, kind of getting a pulse on what's kind of going on. This, of course, brings him up to the guild people that got their ass handed to him by the Hallbrand dude, being like very isolationist, very much against the elves and everything, but the Chancellor dude's able to kind of calm him down, get him into drinks, and even though he still spouts out the kind of isolationist policy that Numenor has adopted, and we get everything kind of linked up with that as Galadriel brings the information of Sauron and the Southlands and asking her to commit people to this war effort because they're going to be coming eventually. You kind of want to have to deal with that. Queen Regent Muriel is like, nah, I'll send you on your way and everything. But then Galadriel's like, I'm going to go above your head. I'm going to go above your helmet and go to your father. This, of course, means that she then gets locked in. And then Hallbrand's pretty much like, listen, you've been single-mindedly focused and you're pissing off everybody. The thing is, you need to figure out why you were locked in here. It wasn't because you asked for people. What set her off, as he then kind of walks her through. And I actually really liked seeing this because it showed that Hallbrand, even though he is prone to his emotions taking over as well, does know how to think tactically and diplomatically as well on his feet, as he then is able to figure out what's going on. And he's like, listen, what you need to do is figure out what somebody's afraid of and try and allay that fear. What can you do to help them with that? And that is a really good message to detail with, as it's then, alright, what's going on? Because we had seen earlier in the episode that Muriel had this vision of this, they're blessing these kids and everything, and then this wave comes out of nowhere and like pretty much destroys all of Numenor. It's like, okay, what's going on here? And they pretty much figure out that it was when it was brought up with the father. And that's when it kind of starts bringing up other kind of stuff as the counselor dude's coming in. Is like, you're going to be shot out of this place. We're going to give you a ship under guard. And then Galadriel's able to pretty much handle him like ain't nobody's business. Hallbrand's like, listen, dude, just let her kind of deal with her own thing. Just hold off, man. And she goes off. She pretty much gets to the king and sees that he's vastly deteriorated. And Muriel brings up to speed that he was very devoted to aligning with the elves and the old ways, but then they have a Palantir, which you have to be careful with because it's a seeing stone, and one of them fell into Morgoth's hands, and that gets all kind of nutty. We see this again with Saruman, damn it. With Sauron and Saruman in The Lord of the Rings, and how that kind of fucks with shit, but it showed them... Galadriel uses it and sees the wave and everything coming at her. But evidently, Muriel used it and saw that, like, Galadriel's coming heralded this wave, and so she's like, listen, I understand, but I need to protect my people. And I get that. But you always have to be careful with visions and portents of the future, because they never really go the way you think. And it's funny because she then starts pretty much trying to get her a ship and send her on her way. However, the trees that are very important, they start shedding their leaves, and those are potent omens to the Numenorians. And she's like, all right, screw this, and then decides to commit to the war effort and help them out because it's like, oh god, the Valar are judging us for this. This ain't gonna be good. And it's like, all right, good on that. And this is where they then call that Queen Muriel is going to go. She's going to take people with her to help the Southlands. And of course, then we see that Elendil is calling for people to help protect the Queen and everything. And that's when Isildur and his friends, his friends volunteer first, and then Isildur does as well, as they then pretty much are setting this up. What did they do with Halbrand? He was still in there just for shits and giggles, I believe. But, well, not shits and giggles. I mean, he attacked those guys. Well, he tried to steal their shit. They attacked him. He whooped their asses. It's like both parties were being fucking assholes. You really need to figure out a better kind of way than just like having him locked up, because the assholes were pretty much just fucking with him, and their way of dealing with shit in Numenor is just like he just wanted to like get a job or whatnot, and they're like, fuck off. I was like, alright, I just would have left that place. I'm like, fuck you guys. If you want to do stupid ass shit and like sit in your own stuff, be like, I'm gonna stay here. It's like, alright, but when you get fucked over by something, just remember that's what you wanted. So it'll be interesting to kind of see. He's probably, he's gonna be important because he knows the Southlands and is linked to it as being a king, so he's going to have to go with them. But that's kind of where it ends out. We didn't get any information on the hobbits, though granted, where we left them off, we could let them be gone for an episode or two before linking back up to see what's kind of going on with the Stranger and Nori. But I overall enjoyed this. Theo just annoys me mainly for his content more than anything, and we'll see kind of how he gets set up, probably linking up to being some kind of important figure within Sauron's army, since he is using the blade and is connected to that. Maybe he will be possessed or something by like a spirit of some kind of thing, or molded by Sauron, because we don't even know if Adar is Sauron at this point. We'll see kind of what kind of goes on, because I do remember, at least in most kind of lore scenarios, that Sauron, when creating and forging the Rings of Power, came as pretty much in the guise of a beautiful elf. So Adar being the kind of corrupted, weird kind of looking elf doesn't really fit that. However, I don't know if they're changing certain kind of things to be how different it's going to be from most of the stuff that I've kind of looked into periodically. So we'll see how this kind of goes. But I enjoyed it, and I'm still loving the production value and most of the characters that we're getting. So I'm like, yeah, let's see where we go from here. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.